regional variation. For example, don't get a translator from European Portugal to translate a document aimed at Brazilian customers. And the same applies between UK and US English. I have translator friends who, despite living here in the UK for over 30 years, and they're speaking perfectly English, and you'd never know really that they weren't English, but they won't translate into English because they know that somewhere along the way they're going to let themselves down with a misplaced pronoun or article. And a little story about the Brazilian Portuguese and the Portuguese difference. Many, many years ago when I was young and naive, a company came to me and said, I want this piece of work translated into European Portuguese, please. So can you please make sure that the translator is a European Portuguese? So I found a translator and I said, are you European Portuguese? And she said, yes. Well, that was actually a complete lie because she wasn't. What she was trying to do, she was a Brazilian and she was trying to write European Portuguese. But no matter how hard she tried and no matter how hard she tried to find the right vocabulary, it still came out sounding Brazilian. And the same applies to US and UK. I don't sound anything like an American and I don't write like one. So you need to know which market you're aiming at. Moving on. I hope my slides aren't lagging too much. The next thing is make sure that your translator has experience, not just in translating, but in your business or industry. They need to be able to show this by providing references or evidence of continuing professional development, possibly even just samples of work. But they don't actually need to be a qualified engineer to understand engineering subjects. It does help if they have experience of the world of engineering. Similarly, a qualified doctor is unlikely to have much time to translate, and he wouldn't want to. He's probably paid better as a doctor. But medical translators will have a working background with medicine and will undertake significant amounts of training in the many areas of medicine that exist, but are probably not practicing medical practitioners, in fact. And why are the engineers and doctors and lawyers actually not translators? Actually, some of them are. I do know some translators who've retired from their respective fields and they now translate. But most engineers or doctors or lawyers or whatever field it is, they're too busy earning the pretty high fees that they can command to want to spend their days behind a desk translating. And that is actually a fact. So I'm just going to have a quick route around the questions to see if there's any coming in that anybody wants to comment. Nope.
So far there haven't been any questions. Right. Yeah. Guys, if you have any questions, you have a possibility to ask them.
Yeah. Because well, there are 12 rules and I'm on number 6, and so there's going to be quite a bit of time for questions at the end, so perhaps we'll leave it to then.
Okay. Okay.
My next golden rule is to get to know your translator. Try and meet him if he's not too far away. He or she needs to have as much background about your company as possible. For example, let's suppose that your company has an agent in France and you want stuff translated into French. So why not allow your translator to consult with them for the correct terminology that you use in your business or your particular company? Or why not invite him to tour your premises? I've been around 2 or 3 of my clients' premises just to get a feel for what they're doing, how they work, what their factory looks like, what's going on in the factory, looking at the products, how they're made. It really all helps the translator to have a great bit of background about you, your methods, your business, and your setup. Seventh golden rule, and I know that all you translators who are listening in will agree with me here. Tell your translator what you want and why you're having it translated. Okay, it's quite often that a translator will see a piece of text and it's quite obvious what it is. it's quite obvious that it's just a little letter to go out or an email. It's obvious that it's a contract. But sometimes a contract, is it going to be used actually, is it going to be the one that's going to be signed, or is it just for information purposes? Is it perhaps a contract that was signed some years ago and you need to know what it said because there's some litigation going on? All that is really necessary. The translator likes to know this sort of thing, even if it doesn't seem all that relevant to you. It is to me. Because the style and the register of the language used in a contract is actually terribly different from what's used for, let's say, website marketing copy, which is written in a very much simpler language for maximum sales impact. So basically here, the point about the purpose is that the more information your translator has about what you're aiming for, the better the results are going to be. Judith has a comment here. I'm just going to interrupt myself and read out the comment. Translating into your mother tongue, I feel that if you've lived in the foreign country for a long time, and I know you have, Judith, you might actually translate better into the other tongue. As a matter of fact, I know some translators who've been away for so long, they only do German to English. Yeah, I know one or two like that too, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't do it. I'm just saying that I also know other translators on the same coin who won't, because they know that somewhere along the line they're going to let themselves down with a misplaced preposition. But anyway, that's a good comment, Judith. Thanks. The next golden rule is to finalize the work that you want translated before you send it off for translation. Sometimes I get customers send me something, oh, we want this translated, but we won't have the final version till next week. Do you think you could translate it and then perhaps adapt it afterwards? Well, the short answer should really be no. The long answer could be, yeah, well, maybe I could do that because I use tools that enable me to do an update. But it really isn't a good idea. Translating a work in progress is always going to be more time consuming, and it will end up more expensive for you. Having multiple versions can also lead to misunderstandings between you and your translator. Which is the version that he's got? Which version is he translating? It really is best to have it sorted out all before the translator even starts work. My 9th golden rule is to provide glossaries for your translator. Well, you might say, well, the translator should know what the terms are. The translator's a translator, after all. It is their job. Sure it is. But I've come across clients who have different terms for the same thing. Your business is your business, and it might not be replicated anywhere else in the world, and you have complex technical terms, and those might not be readily available to your translator. Sure, the translator can research, but if you already know what the term is that you prefer, why not let him know what it is? That saves a lot of time. And so, really the key is here to tell him how you describe your products and processes, so he can always use your preferred terms. I don't know why I keep saying he, because I'm a she, but please read she for he as well. Now, this isn't quite time for your questions. It's my 10th golden rule. Allow time for your translator to ask questions, to seek clarification. A good translator will analyze every element, as I said before, of every sentence, and they may well help you to improve your original. And so a good translator will probably check out a few terms with you, especially the first time that you're working together. It might be the very first time that your translator has worked with you, and he needs to understand some things, he needs to check out some terms. Do let him do that. He won't bombard you every 10 minutes during the day with a different question. What I usually do is save up any questions that I have till I've done a rough draft of the text. So I know I've got all my questions in one place. And then I send them and I said, do you think you could just clarify a couple of points for me? And then I list them, so he's only got one email to answer instead of 10 or 15 during the day, which would be really, really annoying. Right, I'm going to let you digest some of these odd translations which I found on the internet. They're from Hindi, I believe. No, don't know any Hindi myself. The only one I can make any sense of is the one that says it's not something to play for children, hand cut, then the blood comes out. Well, it kind of says what it means, but it's not very good. Basically, they're machine translations. They're results from a machine translation. And as you can see, these results are only just about okay to get the gist of an email, but please, please, please don't publish the results online, because it's just the route to disaster and becoming a laughingstock. Sure, machine translation has come on leaps and bounds in recent years, but still the programs need training in your work, not just general work. And it will always need a lot of post-editing by a professional. And that's especially true with Asian languages, as you can see here. And I've no idea what most of them are saying, as I say, apart from that one about cutting your hand. So I'll leave that up for a moment or two. I'm just going to mute myself for a moment while I take another drink. Hold on. Okay. The last golden rule is allow the translator to make a final check of typeset materials. I can hear you saying, well, surely they've checked it before they delivered it. Yes, of course they have. And a good translator will have delivered a perfect piece of text where all the spelling, all the grammar, all the punctuation is correct. But I would remind you, see at the bottom I've said London 2012. Does anyone remember the saga of the Arabic posters saying welcome in Arabic? Put up your hands if you do remember that. What had actually happened was that the translator did a great job of all the posters that were meant to welcome the Arab visitors, people who speak Arabic, to London. But what they'd done was the typographers printed it back to front. Nobody thought about asking the translator to check the artwork before it was actually printed. So it got printed and it was absolute nonsense, and it made London look a bit of a laughingstock. Don't let non-native speakers fiddle around with the text by adding bits and pieces that they think is okay to add. They can add, for example, captions, or hyphenating a word if perhaps in the wrong place, adding capital letters that are not appropriate, adding punctuation that might suit your country but not ours. All those things are not appropriate, and that's why after you sent your project to the typesetters, you really should let your translator have another look at it just to do the fine-tuning, and that's proofreading, just making the final check. So I've reached the end of my golden rules, but the next thing I just want to show you is how are you going to find these translators, these wonderful professional translators who are going to do such a wonderful job for you. Well, I've listed here 2 places where you will find them. In your country, if you're in another country, you will find a relevant site, ORZIT, for example, an ATA. The ITI, that's a link which I can make available to you afterwards. The CIOL, the same. They have the Find a Linguist feature. Both of those are searchable by language pair, obviously, by area, by technology, by field in which they work. So you'll find the right person. And then that would go straight to the entry for the person concerned, and all likelihood you'll get certainly an email address and possibly even a phone number. You can phone them up. And that last link is a link to an article published by the ATA about finding a professional translator. And I have to say, while talking about the ATA, I actually used, they have a wonderful booklet called Finding a Translator, something like that. I forget what it's actually called. It's a little booklet, and I've based this talk on the way they've structured that. They have sort of 10 or 12 golden rules, and they're the ones I've taken to do this talk. And then the last thing is how you're going to know if my translator's done a good job. I don't actually speak French or German or Chinese or whatever it is, the language that you had it translated into. Well, how can you be sure? Perhaps the first time you deal with a translator, you could show the results to a colleague whom you trust in that country where you plan to publish this text before you publish it, of course. Remember, as I mentioned earlier, to tell the colleague not to start rewriting the text, because the translation is just that. It's a translation of what you wrote. If he wants to add stuff, of course, that's not a translation issue. And it just goes to illustrate my earlier point. Remember, too, that all translation is subjective, and one person's style is not the same as another's. So adding a comma here or just changing a word, tweaking something that means the same, that's not really going to mean that your translator's done a bad job. It just means that they have a slightly different style to what your reviewer likes. But if your honest reviewer were to find the piece of work full of grammar and spelling problems, or the meaning hasn't been conveyed properly, well, then perhaps your translator hasn't been a professional. Here's a tip. When you work with a new translator, send them a small piece first, just to make sure that their work's going to be okay before you give them a longer project. So I'm hoping that if you're not a translator, your opinion of translators and translating will have changed after my talk. So show your hands if you think it might have changed. Okay, well, I think most of you were translators anyway, so I believe you were all with me on that. And it's time for some contacts. There's my contact address. If you are interested in webinars and training courses, the second address is the one to go. Translation services, German to English, the first one is the one to go. And the web link at the bottom is to the web page for the training. And so here we are. We're a little bit early, but I'm very happy to take questions and comments. Olga, if you'd like to pitch in here.
Sure. Guys, post any questions you have so far. Our fellow translators have found the name of the book you were speaking about. It's called Interpreting Getting It Right.
That's the one for interpreting, and translation getting it right. Yes, thank you very much, Liz. Oh, Mary's here. Hello, Mary. Yeah, thanks very much. I'm so pleased you made it. Right.
Well done, Lucy. Great presentation. So,
okay, Susan's asking whether the attempt is going, and we've managed to keep the stream going. Olga, you might be able to fill in there.
Well, we had a breakage for 6 minutes due to some technical issues, and we're still waiting for the decision of the Guinness team about that, but we're not really, 100% concentrated on just making the record. We also want to make a meaningful time for you guys, so it's important for us that you learn something useful. So we will press on, and we will do it till the end. Don't worry.
That's good. I would have thought I thought you guys were brilliant, bringing it back within 6 minutes, and I'd have thought personally that 6 minutes would be allowed, because after you're allowed a break now and again in a Guinness Book of Records attempt.
Well,
I don't know.
The guys from the Guinness team weren't there at the moment, and Jonathan was waiting for them because they will be the ones who will tell us whether that was okay or not.
Yeah. Well, I hope so, because this has been a wonderful event. It's been fantastic. I've so much enjoyed dipping in and out and listening to various things. It's been fabulous, and I think you guys have done a wonderful, wonderful job.
Well, I've also been amazed at how things have been working out so far. And,
guys, can I sort of barge in now? Just my screen kind of. I can give you an update on the sort of state of play. So this is what happened. 9:57. We had an outage, which meant that we got the dreaded "the webinar has ended" screen, and that booted everybody out. So on a practical level, it's the equivalent of Bradley Wiggins, the cyclist, getting a flat tire and getting a new bike in my book. We restarted, about 6 minutes later, which meant Stephen Brighton got sort of 6 minutes less, and he kind of hurried up. What I've tried to do is to get the message out to the kind of virtual community that's sort of following us as quick as possible. So we've all got several emails in rapid succession. The upshot of them is that if you've got an email data with an invite before 9:57, it will not work. You need to register again, and you'll get another invite, obviously by return. As far as the Guinness record are concerned, we don't know. I don't know. I don't know what their criteria is. Very strict. I don't know somebody that's done a hopscotch world record with sort of scouts and brownies, and said they were very, very strict. So, which is fair dues. Having said that, like Olga says, I'm broadcasting from a workshop in Nottinghamshire, the home of Robin Hood, and it's kind of passed by the local community, and there's people coming out in and out of this business centre that have no clue that we've got or had, upwards of 100 people in a meeting room listening to somebody in another part of the country or world. So, like I said, the virtual community has done us proud, really, and all the different people that we've got speaking. I'm just sort of batting time out. Does that make sense as like the state of play? I've got cameras pointing on me, we've got cameras pointing on things and all sorts of other things to confirm what we've done. Is that a summary?
I think so, yeah. There's a question in from Oliver, actually. I'll read it if that's okay, Oliver. Olga. Do you think that individual translators and the professional associations could be doing more to educate the market about the value of good translation? Well, I know the ATA works very hard to do that, and so do ITI. And in fact, recently at the ITI conference, I set people who went to my presentation a challenge, and that was to commit during this next year to go out and talk to clients. By that I mean go out to an event that is not a translator event, a trade show perhaps, giving a seminar, or going to a conference and giving a paper to people who would be buyers of the translation, similar to what I've just done, educating the client. And that's, I think, what not just the association, but each member of the association needs to be doing, going out, talking to their contacts in their worlds, in their country, in their local community, their breakfast club, their chamber of trade, commerce, whatever. They need to be going out and giving similar presentations to what I've just done. Golden rules of buying translations. And that way we hopefully will stop seeing the hilarious kind of website that I showed you at the beginning of this presentation, like the campsite one, for example.
I think one thing that's just kind of come through all the, well, not all, but quite a lot of the presentation is that marketing must equal education. People don't know us, they don't care about us, but if we can show them something that nobody else can, and be that.
Yes, I think the average man in the street hasn't a clue really what we do. That's why I started off the presentation with a question about all you need is a dictionary, don't you? Which I hope I've proven that is not the case. But yeah, unfortunately, out there, a lot of people just think that is true. That's all you need.
What did Marta call translators? Invisible people. Was it that Marta, or was that you, Olga?
It's Marta.
Marta.
Well, translators are called invisible heroes. Who said that?
Yeah.
Somebody posted it, and it just went further.
So we've got 10 minutes to fill. What shall we talk about now then? Should we?
Talk about translation. I see that Rebecca's. I tell you what, if you take me off, you'll to stop me being organizer. Take the presenter role from me, and I will log out and then come back in again as an ordinary attendee. Is that okay?
Person, that's fine. Yes. So you are the presenter, right?
Yeah.
So show my screen. So I don't see any questions. So this is a little bit early actually, and I don't see any questions. And if you can presumably contact Lucinda directly, I'm sure there's no problem in. Yeah,
send me an email or go to the Facebook page or whatever, and I will make these slides available to you as a PDF.
Wait! Don't leave!
I haven't left.
Marcelo has a comment.
Oh right, okay.
Okay, good. She says, a very interesting webinar, but you didn't mention the importance of the revision of the translations by second professionals. Do you think you could talk about it?
Hi, Marcella. Yeah, well, I can talk about it, but I'm not sure that I can add anything of value. I think, yes, translations, especially a translation that is going to be published with no further review, must be looked at by a second professional, just to make sure that, you know, something didn't get slipped through by the first translator who maybe missed something because it got late or something. But in my view, I'm going to make an admission here that I am that second reviewer for myself. I don't generally send my work out to a second reviewer, but what I do is sleep on it. I don't do a translation and then just wing it off unless it was dead urgent and it, you know, I'm just doing the client a favor. It always, I print it out on paper and then read it through as if I was reading it for the first time. And that is sort of my second review, and then I do another check against the original just to make sure that I hadn't missed anything. So I've made an admission in public here that I very rarely actually use a second translator, because basically my rates won't cover for it. Now, an agency will do that. If I'm working for an agency, then I know that the work I've done will be reviewed at the agency. But if I'm working for my direct client, I am my own reviewer. Or my husband is my own reviewer. I get him to read stuff sometimes because he looks at it with an unjaundiced eye.
I have another thing to say about it, because I once had an experience when the client had me to do the translation, and then they sent my translation to another agency for review, and they said it was absolutely awful and returned it with their remarks, and I saw that the remarks were just like you were saying, you know, that it's a subjective process and there were no actual mistakes. They just wanted to win the client. And the client, of course, said, sorry, won't pay you. And I was like, okay, whatever. So be very careful about, you know, trusting another professional, because professional integrity is not what everybody exercises, unfortunately.
Oh, it's just somebody's opinion, isn't it?
That's a nightmare scenario where they put the red line through everything and it is totally subjective. They simply use a different word which means the same thing, or their style is they put in a comma or whatever, you know, just little stylish things. Which that is the nightmare. It has happened to me as well, Olga. You're not alone. It's horrible.
Well, I kind of suspect that I'm not alone. But yeah, it happens.
That's like a badge of honour, isn't it, I suppose, really? Once you've earned your spurs, you've had a good kick in, and you kind of earned your second badge of experience, I would guess. Maybe? I don't know.
Yeah.
No? All right. Right, so Lucy, I'm going to, I think I can dismiss you with the dismiss things. I'm going to, if that's okay.
That's the best way. It's the safest way. You do that.
Yeah, so the safest way is, it's quite a harsh word, but dismiss. So you are dismissed. Goodbye.